successful IT manager, martial artist, vlogger, and today a proud debuting author. We welcome today Stephen Salaka. Stephen has always had a vivid imagination, describing it as elephants running out in his head. So writing was always meant to be part of his journey. He believes in writing consistently, even if it's just a small amount each day. To keep his creativity flowing, he adopted a 100-day writing challenge and encouraged others to give it a try too. A truly inspiring person. So now we welcome him to Writing Inspiration with Markee Books. Hello,
Hi,
Stephen.
everyone.
How are you? How are you feeling?
Good. It's a great day today. It's all sunny outside.
I'm happy to hear that. So tell me, Stephen, so what's your story? How did you become a writer?
So ever since I was small, I've really had an imagination. It really ran wild all over the place. I like to say I've got elephants running around in my head. And I've always been a creative writer, writing short stories, writing funny little skits, always been the joke of the class. However, never really had an opportunity to do any writing. Last year, unfortunately, I was laid off from my job, so I had a lot of time on my hands. And I said, hey, I've got this idea that's been bouncing around in my head for a while. Let me put it to paper. And instead of writing a short story, it turned into a whole book.
Oh, that's fine. So how long did it take you to finish it?
It took a little over a year to go through the whole process. The original writing was about 6 months, and then about 6 months of editing.
That's pretty much it with that book. For your first one, you actually managed to finish it quite quickly.
Yeah, I started out with an outline, had an idea of where I wanted the story to go. It's something that I've been thinking about for quite some time. So getting on paper was the easy part. The hard part was really refining it down to the point where it actually made sense to people outside of my brain.
Oh, I completely agree. It's usually like that all the time. So how long did it take you to get published?
So I originally had put out a lot of query letters as soon as I finished my first draft. Fortunately, there was a lot of rejections. There was a lot of things that just really didn't turn around. So at the end of the day, I said, you know what? Let me just go on my own, and I'm going to publish this myself. So I went through Kindle Direct Publishing, went through the whole process, came up with a cover design, which wasn't really the best. So I'm in the process of revamping that, and then put it out there.
That's okay. So tell me, did you struggle in the process?
Yeah, I think the big issue was figuring out how to best format it. I had ordered like 5 or 6 different proofs every single time. There was an issue with the layout. There was an issue with the page, with the formatting. Even looked great on the screen. Getting it actually into a physical book, it took some time.
Did you make the cover yourself, or did you ask someone to do it?
So originally, I went down and said, hey, what really represents this book? So I sketched some things out. I drew some pieces out. I digitized it and turned into the cover design, and basically plugged it into the Kindle cover creator. So basically, it's this red book with a little picture that I had sketched out over here. Looks interesting, but not really tells the whole picture.
Yeah, it's a little bit simplistic. So, what other thing do you do other than writing?
So in my day job, what I've been doing for 20 years is I'm an IT manager. I've run the program for Tesla, for Boeing, a lot of big name organizations. I run the software development teams. I've been doing that for a long time. Also have a PhD in industrial organizational psychology, so really understand those human relationship elements. And then on the side, I do fun things like I'm in the martial arts, I'm in Boy Scouts, and do other things on the side.
Okay. It was a big shift from your day job to this new thing you're trying. Are you planning to go full writer, or you're going to keep this as a side job for the moment?
The book has been met with some good success. I have to redo the cover design is the biggest thing. I get a lot of great click throughs, a lot of people getting through there, but they don't actually click through the process. 100,000 views and maybe 50 or 60 clicks. But then once they see the book, they're like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm actually in the process of writing a second book about my job search from 2024. It's more of a memorial of what went wrong during this past year. And I'm writing creatively on the side, submitting to little short story contests just to keep things going. So if it starts paying the bills, that'd be great.
That's great, actually. Well, if you ever need a cover, you can ask Markee Books. We literally make covers. and websites and other products. But yeah,
Excellent.
don't know if you ever watch our website.
Yeah, I think I've been there. You have some really interesting designs, especially for science fiction books and fantasy books. Looks like something that might be good to get into.
So, Stephen, in what genre do you want to specialize?
I love science fiction and fantasy, but I'm also on the edge of speculative fiction. So it's where you're in an absurd situation, something just really stretches the limit of the imagination. So think like Jorge Borges type of an approach.
Oh yeah, I was about to ask if other authors inspire your work.
Yeah, so in my work, a lot of cosmic horror, so a lot of Lovecraft comes through it. But on the other side, from the science fiction thing, a lot of Isaac Asimov, Stephen Baxter, some of that mid to hard science fiction, and really was a challenge writing the book where it's got a MacGuffin in there. It's got something that just comes out of a dream, and I wanted to try and explain that away to say, hey, can I have that suspension of disbelief that this would actually work? So it was hard trying to bridge those gaps, and then on the other side, Jorge Borges, in terms of just that strange writing, and then my favorite author of all time, Carlton Mellick, just that really weird approach to everything.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a bit about your writing routine when you were working on your debut work?
Yeah. So, when I first started getting into this, I sketched out my outline, figured out what I needed to do. And then a lot of times I just ran into blockers. I don't know how to proceed. I don't know how to continue. And so what I actually did during that first process is I created a 100-day challenge. So 100 days, I would write 100 short stories, each of them with a different topic. So I used Readsy prompts as their daily prompt, figuring out what needed to be done. And then I would write on that topic. And it gave me that chance to think through the process from start to finish, creating that narrative. And then what I would do is then go back to the chapter that I needed to do, where I was in that story, and say, okay, how can I apply that to what I did here? So a little bit of writing on the book, and then the challenge, a little bit of writing on the book, and then the challenge. And what that did, it just kept me in that process of continuously writing all the time. So there wasn't that pause where I was constantly thinking. If I got into a roadblock in the book, I'd jump over and do a short story. Once I got done with that, went back to the book. So it was just keeping that momentum going.
But shifting between stories constantly didn't affect like your reading or your ideas?
No. So, if I really got into rhythm and, I'd write out 5,000, 7,000 words in the book, I'd just keep going. It wasn't that I would stop. But if I got to the point where I was getting stuck or I really didn't know where I was going, I would shift gears to allow those creative juices to reset and recycle. Otherwise, I would just sit there spinning my wheels, not getting anything productive done, and then going from there.
I see. So, do you have a story of how you named your book?
The Fields of Elysium really comes from Greek mythology, where it's this
Yeah, I know this
eternal,
story.
this eternal field of happiness, and it really has this ethereal quality of a dream. And what I wanted to do is rise that dream, rise that perfection here on Earth. And so that's why it was the Elysium Rising, and that's where the towers and the symbols came as the writing progressed.
Okay, that's fine. Can you tell us a bit about your book? What it's about?
So basically, it follows the adventures of an IT manager who goes through, has a lot of dreams, and as part of those dreams is able to actually take a device from their dream, rip it out, and actually take those things and make it true. So starts out, creates the Eternal Engine, and gives them the ability to have infinite energy. But I didn't want to just throw that out there. What problems would you run into as a person if you suddenly had infinite energy or infinite computational power or infinite wealth? What would happen? Well, you'd crash everything. Things would go to have a problem. So I wanted to write that in there, like what would happen if you had all of these resources. But at the same time, I also wanted that undercurrent of just like, if I rip this from the dream reality, what sort of price did I have to pay? So that's where the pointers come out, and that's where the antagonist in there, this demonic force, comes through and infests the reality that we've pulled it from.
Well, it sounds like a political thriller in a way.
Yeah, definitely. There are some political undertones in there. There the cult that we fight against, that this creature has infected. They wear red hats. Definitely a call to what we see in the current political environment. But it's more of a symbolism piece where people are stuck in their ways, where people have very fixated ideas that your Luddites, your folks who don't want to advance and let technology move forward, really is that dichotomy of advancement versus stagnation, traditionalism versus progressivism.
Oh yeah, I get it. I was about to ask, the main message of the book, if you can share, of course.
Yeah, so the main message of the book is, your dreams are great. Your dreams are wonderful things to think about and try and pursue, but understand that at the end of the day, reality is reality, and you've got to do what you got to do in order to survive.
Right. You mentioned you're already writing your next big book. Can you tell us a bit about that too?
Yeah, so 2024, out of work, running into a lot of problems. If you're on the job market, or if you know people who are on the job market, it's just really tough out there. People are applying to jobs, not hearing back. There's a lot of ghosting. There's a lot of horror stories that are actually coming out there. So I'm taking that approach and writing some of these things that have happened to me during the job search, like showing up on site to do an interview with somebody in a building, and all of a sudden the entire department gets downsized and you're no longer there, or you spend hours and hours applying and you don't have anything done. So it's really an absurd look. A lot of humor in the book, basically from these issues that I ran into during the job search last year.
I get it. It's like an over exaggeration of little moments in reality to make it seem like horror. I think I have seen that before.
Some of it is exaggerated, but some of it is, hey, yeah, I was actually flown out to Washington. I actually went into this building and met with these folks. I actually went out to these great taco trucks, and all of a sudden people are gone because they had downsized the organization. So there are kernels of truth. It's like you read a lot of what's happening in the world today, and you remember The Onion, and everyone's like, oh, well, The Onion is so satirical, nothing possibly could happen. But now some of the headlines you read that are actually happening, it's like reality is a mix. Well, some of the stuff in the book, yes, there are elements of horror and humor that are woven in just to make it a little more interesting. But there's also a lot of elements of like, hey, this was a real story that occurred.
Well, it seems you're getting fun in writing this.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a catharsis to release some of this and get it out there. And the hope is it'll entertain some folks, but also help folks who are on the job market be like, oh, I went through this myself. Really getting that camaraderie with other folks out there.
So, do you have any advice for new writers starting right now?
I think the first thing really is to just challenge yourself to write. Start off small. If you don't know what to write, don't what you want to do, start off with something like Readsy prompts or something else. Where get yourself a writing prompt and write on it. Write a memoir of what you did during the day. Just write something, because once you start getting in that habit of getting in the process of writing, it becomes a lot easier. It's like, well, I got to map everything out. I've got to detail everything, and that's a great approach. And for some people, that's successful. But if you spend all that time just trying to analyze everything and get it done, that work never gets done. You're never going to get to execute, because you're constantly thinking of that next thing. So start writing, see where it goes, and you want to keep that momentum going. So if you find yourself blocked, put in a little quotation text or put a little block in there. This is what needs to happen here, and then move on to the next piece, so you don't lose that momentum. Otherwise, hey, you hit that writer's wall. You don't know where to start. You can't keep going, and then you're lost.
That's actually a very interesting advice. Usually, most people will say, if you're stuck, just rest till you can. So your approach, it sounds similar, but it's not.
Yeah, it's keep going. It's those times when you're tired. It's those times where you don't want to write. It's times where you don't do it that you really need to push through. Because if you get in the habit of making excuses not to write, you'll constantly make excuses not to write. So it's getting in that habit, making those good things, and making progress. Maybe you only did 50 words a day. Maybe you only did a paragraph or two, but at least you're making that progress. And at the end of a month, 2 months, a year, you're going to have something that you never could imagine at the start of it.
So, do you have like a support network that helps you with your books, like editor friends, other writers?
I've got a couple other writer friends that were in my network that really helped me in terms of just like, where do I start? How do I get through this process? What is a submission package for publishing? So they really helped me set that right in that initial direction. But a lot of it's just been on my own. I was like, all right, I'm gonna put pen to paper. I'm gonna write stuff out. Okay, now I need to edit it. How do I need to do that? Because I'm unemployed, I ain't got any money, so I need to go through and do a lot of that myself. So it's been a big learning process, not just to do the writing, but all of these other technical aspects. Now the marketing of the book. Now reaching out and finding someone else who can help design the cover for the book. So it's a huge learning experience with all these different areas. And my background in IT and all the other stuff I did has helped with that. If I've got to make a presentation for work, I know that editing process, but for a book, it's night and day.
Yeah. You mentioned you debuted some months ago. How have you been handling the marketing aspect of this?
Right now, it's been just a lot of word of mouth, just posting a lot of stuff on social media, and then using tools like Facebook ads and Amazon ads, through the Kindle Direct Publishing.
Okay. So tell me, how do you stay creatively inspired?
I think the best way to be creatively inspired is to go work out. Go out there, live your life, do something physical, get active, and then an idea comes in your head. You'll be sitting there doing something. And
I get it. When I'm running for 30 minutes or something always comes. Like when you're not doing, because you're just running, you're not thinking, you're not doing anything else. So usually ideas will come.
Yeah, or you're in the shower and you're sitting there, you're letting the water wash over you. You're nice and relaxed. It's all warm and hot, and then all of a sudden your mind starts wandering, and then next thing you know, you've got an idea for a new story.
Exactly. So, are you planning to try other type of genres once you finish this book?
Yeah, as I said, I've got my PhD in IO psychology. I've got a lot of research that I've done. I may want to try and convert that into, more popular writing, something that pop science that people can understand, or do some other fiction type of approach.
Okay, so tell us, what is your biggest goal, dream right now?
What my biggest dream would be is if somebody like Sam Raimi or some creative director found my book on Amazon just by accident, picked it up, saw it, thought it was a great idea, and then decided to make a Netflix special out of it.
Netflix has a lot of opportunities, but yeah, they are very trigger happy when a cancellation is about.
For sure.
So tell me, in what platform we could find your book?
Right now, it's only on Amazon, but it's got extended marketing, so you can also find it in Walmart and Target. Hopefully, within the next couple of months, I'll reach and publish it on a couple other platforms as well.
Do you have any social media you want to share so people can learn more about you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, doesgodexist.org. It started off as a sarcastic poke at trying to figure out the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. And then I just use that as my blog to start putting together my writings.
Are you planning to go to any event to promote yourself?
I'm looking at some of the local things here in the area. There's a Brevard Library convention, LibraCon that's coming up here in the March timeframe. So I'm hoping to go there.
Oh, usually those type of events are for summer or something.
They've got something in the springtime. It's Florida, so it's hot all the time.
Oh, and that's good too. Well, Stephen, I think that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining us today and for everything you said. Well, this was another episode of Writing Inspiration with Markee Books, and I hope you have fun. So, see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.